Hi, this is TigerLily. Welcome to another TigerLilys podcast. And I'd like to introduce a man for whom I have a great deal of admiration and respect because he has been fighting this vicious thing we call law enforcement out there in the left coast. His name is Dan Petry, and he is starting his own TV channel called C.O.P over the internet. So I want to welcome you, Dan. How are you?
Hey, TigerLily, I wish we were meet under better circumstances, but we have to just put a stop to what's going on with the police all across the nation. They're just out of control. They're escalating situations into nothing situations into murdering people. So something's very wrong. I know they're not taught that in the academies, so we need to address all this.
Well, you've been fighting this corruption in Los Angeles for now about 30 years now, right? So why don't you start with the beginning?
Okay, well, I live in Vanderbilt Village, California, which is about 3 hours above LA. It's an hour above Santa Barbara, and it's in the Lompoc Valley. And briefly, in 1976, I pitched a 1-0 win at Lompoc High to beat the crosstown rival in the Northern League Championship game. So I was a 7-year All-Star pitcher, and I was like a Tim Tebow type athlete, a good, Christian athlete. And I married my high school sweetheart, which was one of the prettiest girls to ever come out of the Lompoc Valley, and she was 18 at the time I got married, and I married her at 20 years old. And I was going to be drafted at 20 years old to turn professional, but I flunked the physical and I needed rotator cuff surgery, so my baseball career was over at 20 years old, even though I played until I was like 45. But my dreams of turning pro were just through. So, because in 1980, he didn't come back from that kind of surgery. There was no miracle surgery in 1980.
Right, sorry to hear that.
Surgery, you were over. So I went to my secondary field, which was I was an administration of justice major in college. So I got a job as a security guard at Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant in San Luis Obispo, California. I was newly married. She was 18 and I was 20. And, I thought I had a good career dream job. I'm working at a nuclear power plant. I was making about $10 an hour, good money at that time. I mean, it was probably, $1,600 a month. And rent were low then. And she got a job at Madonna Ann working in the gift shop. So both of us together, we were probably going to be making, $2,000 a month. Young couple, everything going great. Just, I had a great baseball career. I married a beautiful girl. I had everything going for me, everything going in the right direction. And then I got a call one day out of the blue about maybe our 8th month of marriage, 6th to 8th month of marriage, and right in that time period, right in our first year of marriage. And she said, Dan, there's a guy here at the gift shop who's harassing me and won't leave me alone. And I said, okay, honey, I'll be there. And we rented a room for, like I said, 6 or so months, and we saved our money to get our first apartment. So this is where we were in our marriage. And we had this apartment for about 2 weeks. And we were doing the phone and the cable, and we brought our furniture. And this is where we were. We still hadn't even gone through our wedding presents yet. And so that's where we were at the time this crime happened to us. And then I got a call from her, and this guy was harassing her, And I came up and I confronted the guy, and I recognized him as Alan Christopher, a construction worker who worked for Pullman Power at Diablo Canyon. And what he was doing was he was asking her questions about me. She was saying I'm happily married, newly married, and he was asking her questions like, well, when does your husband work? And, she's young, a little naive, of course. He was just trying to find out when I wouldn't be around so he could, try to get with her. He was trying to pick her up, put it long story short. So she was saying, no, I'm not interested. I'm happily married, just got married, and all this. So she's trying to get rid of him and saying, no, I don't want to do with you, And I recognized him as a construction worker when I first laid eyes on him because he passed me when I was working my guard shack. And I know his name because his name was on his badge. And I knew who he worked for because he had Pullman Power on his helmet. So he looked at me and he goes, well, you're a guard at Diablo. And I go, well, yeah, I know. I see you pass me all the time. I go, I appreciate it. You know, my wife's told you now, leave us alone. I'm going to call the police. If you don't leave us alone, you know, I'm going to call the police and get a restraining order on you. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get you to leave my wife alone, okay? And he looks at me, Tiger, and he goes, you know, I got the power to ruin your life. I go, well, you know, why, who, well, I don't know, you know, you don't even know what you're talking about, you know? And he goes, I got the power to ruin your life. And I go, well, I don't care about that. Just leave my wife alone. I'll call the police. So I called the police. I got on the phone. I said, there's a Alan Christopher guy, and he's harassing my wife. And will you please come and arrest him, you know? And he's threatening me. And, you know, I said, I just got moved up here. I'm from a different town. I don't know anybody, you know. And the police said, well, you know, we really can't do anything. Has he done anything? And I go, they were double talking me. And to make a long story short, they never did send a police officer to come and confront this guy. I actually had to confront this guy for over 3 days while he stalked my beautiful wife, one of the prettiest girls to ever come out of Lompoc, California. And what happened was he did leave the first time there. He goes, this isn't over, you know, and he goes, I'm gonna, you know, whatever, I'm gonna, you know, this just isn't over, you know. He just, I just was all like, I was shaking, you know. I mean, we just moved to a new area. I mean, she just got her first job. I just got my first job. We're thinking about saving money to buy our first house, and now I'm confronted with this situation, you know what I mean? I've never had this happen to me in my life, you know. So I went over to my friend's house, and he lived in Avila Beach. And lo and behold, who has the apartment right next to my friend's house? This Alan Christopher has the apartment right next to my friend's house. And he's a fellow guard, you know. And I went up to Alan Christopher once again, and I said, you're scaring my wife, you know, and please leave her alone, or, you know, I once again confronted him, you know, and I just left. And then she comes home the second day, and she goes, that Alan guy, he followed me all the way home. He says, I don't know what to do. He followed me all the way from Madonna Inn, and he had a red car. And I know he had a red car because I'll tell you that in a minute. But she came in all terrified, like, you know, scared to death, you know, because this guy's a creep, you know. And I then went over to the apartment, and I confronted him at the apartment again, you know. And he got in a car. He got in his red car, and he went up a hill. And when I followed him up the hill, and I saw a white car with a government plate on it. So I started to think, you know what? I think I'm up against some dirty cops here. I put it together right away because I saw the white car, which would be considered a narc car. I'm not stupid. And the government plates. Then he's in a red car, and he goes up and meets this guy up on top of the hill. So I think he was saying, you know, there's this guard who's kind of on to what we're doing. I mean, he's in other words, I was kind of harassing him back, you know. So I think he was thinking, we got to get rid of this guard. So I went up and I looked in the white car, and sure enough, there was a 38, looked like a police special on the front seat. So I saw a white car with a 38 gun, and Alan Christopher working for Pull and Power with a red car, okay? And I hadn't put it all together yet because I hadn't been the victim of the crime yet. So what happened was, this is a 3-day period. You got to understand, this all happened very quickly, okay? People say, well, why didn't you go to the police? I did. I called the police like 10 times. I called 911s in 3 days. And they never once answered my 911 calls. And here I am 33 years later, and the police have not answered my 911 calls yet.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you why, okay? Well, I got into it was like the morning. It was like, you know, we just got our first apartment, you know, and I spent the night with my wife, and, you know, still in our first year of marriage. And I got in my guard uniform, and I'm on my way to Diablo to do my 8-hour shift, you know. So I'm trying to do my 8-hour shift, protect my wife from this guy, you know, save my career, save my wife, and all this at once. I mean, I'm 20 years old, you know, I'm like going freaking nuts. And I'm not getting any help from the police, so I'm all on my own in this case, right? So he actually makes. I went to go to my job at Diablo, and I happened to look up the corner, and I saw the red car. See it bright as day, 'cause it's red. It's like 2 blocks up from our apartment. So he was waiting for me to leave, and then what I think he was going to do is he was going to go and rape my wife. He was just going to go. He knew. What I'm trying to say is he followed her home that night, so now he knew where we lived. Mm-hmm. So now he knew, you know, when I wasn't going to be there and all that. So I jumped in. I U-turned, and I jumped in the car, And I said, and she happened to be outside hanging some laundry because we still hadn't had a washer yet, so she was doing the hanging of laundry stuff out front. And I just I drove back up really fast, and I said, honey, get in the car. And I said, don't ask no questions. Just get in the car. Don't ask no questions. She didn't know what was going on. And she hops in the car, and luckily Pismo Police was 2 blocks away. So I went up to Pismo Police, and I just yelled at the cops in there. I said, will you arrest him now before he murders us? I'm just shaking. I put up with this for 3 days. I put up with this all by myself. Now, what happened was I missed my 8-hour shift, so Diablo fired me, no questions asked, at 20 years old, newly married. So this put a great deal of pressure on my marriage, obviously, which is exactly what this idiot wanted to do. He got me fired from Diablo. So Diablo wouldn't even listen to me, I tried to talk to the captain and say, this guy was stuck on my wife. What was I supposed to do? Let him go, rape my wife and go to work? And later I would tell the district attorney, I said, my choice in 1980 was to save my wife's life or go to work and save my career. What was I supposed to do? Go do my 8-hour shift and come home to a dead wife? I mean, are you guys crazy? Just shows you how corrupt the DAs are. And they're all corrupt. My case proves it all,
Oh, yeah.
And then, but cut to the chase, her parents, we called my parents, her parents and my parents got together, and we went to our first apartment, and we unloaded everything, and we moved back to Lompoc. We didn't feel safe in Pismo Beach, we just didn't, what the hell's going on here, I still hadn't figured it out yet. So, I moved back home to Lompoc, and the sheriff's department arrested me 2 days after the rape attempt, okay? So, then I had to get a bail bondsman who was Kurt Moore out of Lompoc, and he bailed me out, and I didn't even know what the hell I was arrested for. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure all this out. I just had a guy stalk my wife for 3 days. He tries to rape her on the 3rd day, and I get arrested. I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? So then as a victim of a police crime, I then now have to get an attorney. So I hire an attorney, John Normally, out of Santa Maria, and he digs up the evidence that you now have. Okay, he was working for the sheriff's department at Diablo as an undercover narcotics officer. And his name was not Alan Christopher. His name was Leonard LaHaye, and I sent you his record of arrests. He committed numerous armed robberies, at least 1 arrest for heroin, and he was from back east. So either he was taken out of prison back east and put at Diablo, or he was released back east and then put at Diablo. I don't know that answer yet. Still 30 years, I don't know that answer. But cut to the chase, I now realize the whole case. I was up against a corrupt government narc, and his plan was to have me falsely arrested, where I would be in a jail cell for about 3 hours. And while I was in that jail cell, he could then sexually assault, rape, and possibly murder one of the prettiest girls to ever come out of Lompoc, California. And I tried immediately when this all happened to go to the media. I went to the media with that evidence I showed you. And I tried to tell these reporters exactly what I just said to you 33 years ago. But every time a reporter would go to the editor would say, well, they're in the story. We're not going to put this on the front page. Local baseball star Dan Petry from Cabrillo almost, murdered for his beautiful wife by some corrupt government narc. I mean, look what happened at Aruba. This is why they wouldn't run it. Look what happened at Aruba. You had a young girl killed in Aruba. What did it do to tourism? Killed it. So if they ran this in like the Pismo paper, the San Luis Tribune, the Lompoc Record, the Santa Barbara News Press, okay, if they ran what I just told you, tourism in this whole Central Coast would be destroyed because no one will go anywhere that there's corrupt cops.
And there's a lot of that going on in Anaheim as well, and that's where Disneyland is. So they're very fiercely protecting the tourism by covering up a lot of really evil things that the cop cartel is doing out there.
That's why they won't tell what I just told you.
Mm-hmm.
So what that was his plan, was to have me falsely arrested. And how he did that was he falsified a police report on me that I don't think I sent you. But in the police report that I do have, he says I sold him $55 worth of marijuana. Okay, so basically says Dan Petry sold me $55 worth of marijuana. He then says I gave him $30 back, and the whole drug deal was for $25. So this is the most asinine arrest in the history of mankind. You cannot arrest somebody on a $25 drug deal. Even back in 1980, it was considered less than an ounce, it'd be a $100 ticket, if I did it. But I didn't do it. I had, first of all, I was a star athlete. I didn't even have my first beer till I was like 22 years old. After my career was completely over, I was captain of the team in high school, you know, and I had a reputation to uphold. So I never drank a beer. I didn't drink beer and play sports. You know, you don't have the MVP of your high school team twice. I have a 7-year all-star career. You know, I have a career A of 1. You know, have the baseball career I had, be a drug addict or an alcoholic. That was even more asinine. I didn't even smoke pot. You know, we weren't even involved in drugs. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody where we were. We were trying to save for our first house. This is where we were, America. And we were just a young couple on our way trying to just make it in America. And this is what a bunch of dirty cops did to my life. And you can tell how angry I am. This happened 33 years ago, and I'm still angry. It completely ruined my life. This case completely ruined my life. So what happened was I got the attorney, you know, dug up the evidence, and basically I was the victim of a police crime. That's exactly what it was, both of us. My wife was the target of a government rape. My beautiful wife was the target of a government rape by a corrupt government narc named Leonard Lehane, working under a corrupt sheriff named Nungry for, I think, the San Luis sheriffs. And the police have tried to cover the crime up for 33 years, and how they've tried to cover the crime up is by murdering me. So that's why I went public on it. Finally, the reason why they want to murder me is because I'm the only one who knows the truth. And now, thanks to William Wagner of On Second Thought TV in Santa Maria, Carol Leonard, Prison Reform Movement, a couple other interview people I've been on, and now TigerLily, all America in the world now knows what I know about what happened at Diablo Canyon in 1980, okay? So I don't feel so threatened anymore because the truth is now out there. All the evidence, that evidence that I have sent to you, I've sent to 100 reporters all the way to the New York Times. I've sent my story. Reporters still want to run the story, but editors still won't run the story. So, and then there's 3 local TV stations in the area, and all 3 local TV stations will not run the story. It's the same situation. Reporters want to tell the story, but the local reporters won't, or the local editors won't. So what I did was, I heard about a guy, William Wagner, about maybe 6 years ago, who would run my story. And he covered the Michael Jackson trial. He was in court every day. He was the only journalist in the whole nation that said, this case is crap, and Michael Jackson will walk free on all 14 counts. And he was correct. It wasn't crap. That case, we'll get into that on another subject, but Michael Jackson was completely innocent, and I believed he was completely innocent because I know how corrupt Tom Sneddon and this DA is. And I actually tried to get a hold of Mr. Mesereau because I wanted to testify in the Michael Jackson case on my case to just prove that Tom Sneddon is, in my opinion, a corrupt district attorney and capable of anything. And in the Michael Jackson trial, he was capable. He fabricated that fingerprint evidence on that magazine, which is one of the reasons Michael Jackson was found innocent. And in doing that, he committed a felony. So Tom Sneddon should be indicted, and I am actually trying to do that. I'm working with people to get him indicted, and I hope he hears this. But back to my story, Mr. Wagner put me on his show within a week of me telling him what happened to me. I said, for 25 years, Mr. Wagner, I've tried to tell what happened at Diablo. I've had my life threatened numerous times in this case. My phone's being tapped. I'm being stalked. I'm being threatened. And he goes, I'll put you on. You tell your story. And he put me on. He gave me like an hour and a half. And he was the first journalist in 25 years that would put me on TV to tell my story. And then it went on to YouTube. And then from there, I got other interviews. And now I feel safer than ever. And and she talked about the show I started, which is behind me. It's C.O.P. $.
What does that stand for?
The dollars, well, they're just paid off, and it's all for money. They're revenue generators. The cops generate revenue for local attorneys. They generate revenue for insurance companies when they give people a bunch of tickets and DUIs and raise your rates. It's all about money with the police. It has nothing to do with protecting and serving. Without police, we would need probably 90% of the attorneys in the nation we have. Right. So, that's the whole game is the cop pulls you over, accuses you of something, then you need to get an attorney, and then, you pay out about 10 grand. Every time you're in trouble doing something, whether it's a DUI or whatever, it's going to run you about 10 grand to get out of trouble. Right. So that's the game. And that's what the $ means, but it also stands for criminal organization, plain and simple. So in my case, proves that some parts of the police are just part of organized crime. And the organized crime is, I just proved it to you. They took a guy out of prison, gave him a fake name, landed him at Diablo Canyon. You had a young, newly married security guard, 20 years old, who had his whole life ahead to look forward to, and they ruined my life. They just destroyed my life. This case, it's consumed my life. I'm divorced over it. I've had to file 2 lawsuits now over it. I couldn't even talk about this case for the first 5 years without just breaking down. It was just so heartbreaking to just talk about the torture of having to save an 18-year-old girl from being raped by the government. And then they try to cover it up because they're just a bunch of crooks.
Right.
Our government's corrupt all the way to Obama. It's corrupt all the way to the whole damn government's corrupt. So my case proves it.
Right. And you are one person who's known this for 30 years, and it's just now recently, in the last maybe couple of years, that people are starting to become awakened to what's going on. And I mean, what is it going to take, Dan? I mean, we've got military tanks out there in Massachusetts looking for bombers. Tell me what your thoughts were when, because you said you were going to school for criminal justice, and so at one point So at one point you intended to be a police officer yourself. Are you glad you didn't become a police officer, or did?
Yeah, I am. I think it's a very corrupt field. I think they've weeded out a lot of the good ones over the years, and that's why we're left with bad ones, because all the good ones they've either had enough and they quit and go to plumbing or electrician or something,
right, something useful,
something else, and it just leaves us with bad cops. And back to my story real quick. How I got through all this was I just kept working. I just got up every day, put my shoes on, and kept. Even though I lost my job at Diablo, once we moved back to Lompoc, I just started working. I moved furniture. I worked at fast food. So I went from having a career job at Diablo to half pay. And my wife still stayed with me till 1985, which is 5 years after the rape attempt. And if you watch my interview with Mr. Wagner, it's exactly what I said. It was like the Romeo and Juliet story. I mean, Juliet stayed with Romeo, which was me, because she knew what I gave up for her, which was my career,
Now, what?
It's so hard to talk about, because I did. I gave up my career, my life, what I was going to do to save her life, and then I was blacklisted out of the security guard field. I actually moved back home, and I tried to get a job at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Even though I had a current guard card, I kept the guard card current for 25 years. Even though I had a current guard card, no guard company in the whole state would hire me, because I was considered a whistleblower, and which I was. I blew the whistle on the Leonard Lehane Sheriff Nungery crime spree case at Diablo. I was the good guy who stood up to the bad guys. And for being a whistleblower, I was then blacklisted out of the security guard industry. And that's what I want to tell the world. They got rid of an honest security guard with a beautiful wife, and they kept all the dirty cops. So that's my criminal justice experience. My wife then divorced me after 5 years because we had our life threatened numerous times in the case. The police knew I knew what I knew, because I was an eyewitness security guard to a police crime. So she just got tired of all the threats and the harassment, mainly by Lompoc PD and Lompoc police in my hometown. And so from 1985 to 1992, I was very bitter and angry. I knew I'd lost my career and my wife over a police crime that no one really cared about, because I couldn't get anybody to tell my side of it. I tried for 12 years. And then in 1992, I got a fix-it ticket in my 69 Camaro, and like a guy's going to deal drugs out of a 69 Camaro. It's so stupid. Drug dealers rental cars, and they run the drugs all over the nation. They don't have a 69 Camaro. It's so stupid. But I had in other words, I had a rare car, a rally sport. And I went into Lompoc, get the fix-it ticket sign off, and a Dan Oss signs the ticket off. And then an hour later, I'm driving back into Lompoc, and the same cop that signed the ticket off is right on my, butt, about 2 inches off my bumper. And I knew this was trouble. He was looking for trouble, and it ended up being trouble. This was what I considered the second attempt on my life. 2 Lompoc police officers then converged on my 69 Camaro, and they forced it into a gas station. And I jumped out of my car and I ran to the gas station owner, whose name's Bob. And I said, Bob, let the FBI know that I'm in. I hadn't sought FBI protection yet in the case, which I should have done in 1980. But I'm just young, and I said, I don't know what the hell I'm up against here. I'm up against a corrupt government. That's what I'm up against. So I told Bob, tell the FBI that I'm in police custody, and I'm afraid they're going to kill me. So please, Bob. Bob's a gas station. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, but I'm screaming at him. Just please, Bob, tell the FBI I'm in police custody. Call the FBI. Call the FBI. And sure enough, the three cops converged on me, and they tried to break my lower right leg. I was hit about 50 times with batons, and it happened 20-some years ago, and my leg still hurts to this day, permanent damage. I can show you the black and blue is still there, and it happened in 1992. So 21 years ago this happened, and my leg is still black and blue. And if you feel the bone goes like this on my leg from all the batons. They did permanent damage. So then I was thrown into a police car, and they threw me into a jail cell, and Officer Mill Baldwin comes in, and he says, I looked at him and I said, I'll leave town. I said, I know too much about the corruption in this town. I said, I'll leave town. I'll never come back. He goes, it's going to get worse, Dan. He says, if you don't leave, it's just going to get worse. And I took that as a death threat. I actually thought that was just an outright death threat. And he made the mistake, and I actually told him that I thought my leg was broken, and he offered me no medical attention, which proves the beating was planned. And so I actually made the mistake of letting me out, and I limped to my car. They had actually impounded and ripped it apart. What they were looking for was all that evidence that you have. That's what they were looking for. It was a Watergate-type cover-up. What they didn't know was my attorney had all the originals. They were just copies anyway. So I went home, and I was so angry, I got on the phone, and I called the FBI all the way back to Washington, D.C., and I said, you got a bunch of dirty cops down here. I said, I need FBI protection. I need it now. And within one day, an FBI agent was at my house, and I hugged the guy, and I said, they're going to kill me. He said, who's going to kill me? I said, you got a bunch of dirty cops down here. They're going to kill me. And I told him the story. I told him everything. I said, Diablo in 1980, they tried to rape my wife. I said, and I showed him the evidence that you have. And the FBI agent looked at me and he goes, you're a victim. And I said, I know I'm a victim. Now go tell these dumbasses I'm a victim. So he went around and told the 4 police departments in the area. He said, Dan Petry's the victim of his case. Basically, you guys are a bunch of idiots and criminals. So then the FBI agent leaves. Well, then I contacted a lawyer, Patricia Berry, out of Beverly Hills, and she slammed the town of Lompoc with $1 million lawsuit, which you saw the paper. I sent that to you. That was in the paper. It says Vanderbilt Village man files $1 million false arrest suit against Lompoc. But the Lompoc record would never tell why I filed the suit, which is why what I just told you in previous. So I've tried to get the Lompoc record to tell what happened at Diablo. They wouldn't even tell what happened. So basically, all the newspapers between Paso Robles and Ventura would rather let a bunch of dirty cops run around trying to rape people than warn people. So I had to warn people. I feel like Paul Revere in this case. I've ran around and warned everybody, and by going on your show and other shows and just talking about it for 33 years. So I would have guessed I've probably taken 100 cops off the streets in 33 years, and I don't know how many lives I've saved by doing what I'm doing. But all I know is every time I file a complaint against a cop, you don't see him again. So every time I take a dirty cop off the street, I save a marriage, I save a career, and I save a life. So I've been doing it now for 33 years, and it's all because of my case. It's just every time a cop comes and harasses me, they're harassing the victim. Go arrest the criminals in my case and leave me alone. You understand that? So I call the FBI, and I just tell the FBI the officer's name, and if the officer doesn't have a good reason for harassing me, like I said, I just never see him again. I have a feeling it's expiring. But that's my nightmare. And then so Patricia Berry filed the suit in 92 for $1 million for false arrest, and basically the Leonard Lehane Sheriff Notary Crime Spree case. And then for the past 20 years now, I've had to seek FBI protection like 10 times in the case because I feel I've been stalked numerous times. I don't know who's stalking me, but I know that they mean me harm. And I also had the biggest death threat I had was from a guy from Blackwater. Came up to me and he said, Jim Fatigues, and he goes, have you heard of the group Blackwater? And I said, yeah, I assume you're the government assassin group in Iraq, but I don't really know much about you. I only want to say follow you, He goes, well, we can get you anytime, anywhere. He says, I mean, you're ours, So that's when I went on Wagner's show. About a week after I was threatened by the Blackwater guys, when I contacted Mr. Wagner, and I said, I had enough of this crap. I'm the victim of the case. So this goes out to all you police officers in the United States of America. Dan Petry is the victim of his case. I'm not the criminal. So leave me alone and go arrest all the real criminals in my case. It's just asinine.
Themselves, basically. Now,
well, yeah, the Leonard Lehane and Nungary, they're the criminals. Baldwin's the criminal. I coined a phrase, criminally corrupt or totally incompetent. And that's lawful police officer Mill Baldwin. He either blew the investigation on purpose, which would make it a criminal act, or he blew it on accident, which just makes him incompetent. But either way, he should have never been a cop in the first place.
What were your thoughts throughout the entire Christopher Dorner ordeal out there in Los Angeles?
Well, I can totally relate to Dorner because that's what they want me to do. They want me to do what Dorner did. They've tried to actually push my buttons to do that. Because they want me to act out, because once I act out, or if I do act out, then they can kill me. So I do the complete opposite. I just go out, and I've been a professional entertainer now for about 24 years, and I just go out and sing. I don't carry any weapons, I don't drink and drive, I don't do illegal drugs, I don't commit any crimes. So I do the complete opposite. I just clean, healthy life, and don't do anything. So if something happens to me, it's just going to be an outright assassination, like we did to Martin Luther King. So what they did to Dorner, what Dorner did wrong was acting out, because that's what they wanted him to do, but he knew that. Because he was in police work. He's not stupid. So obviously they really pissed him off for him to do what he did. Now, I've said this a couple of times. The way I describe the Dorner case is LAPD is Dr. Frankenstein. Dorner is Frankenstein, the monster, okay? Well, what LAPD forgets to tell everybody is they created Dorner. They created the Frankenstein monster when they fired him for trying to blow the whistle on how corrupt the LAPD is. And then they went after his Navy career. What I understand, I just know what I read. Mm-hmm. So what happened was they took an honest, from what I see, he's a nice guy, like I am. I'm kind of a nice guy. I don't do anything for anybody. I'm a nice, easygoing guy, and that's why it makes me a victim,
But it seems like he snapped.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He sat around for probably 3 years and said, I've lost my Navy.
Stewed.
Yeah, he stewed. I lost my LAPD career. And what he did was, he snapped. And then he went and apparently killed the captain's daughter and son-in-law who fired him, and that's the crux of the problem. You need to find out why this captain fired him instead of listening to him and trying to fix the problem. But the mainstream media missed that point. They just acted like LAPD had to take out this crazy cop that went nuts, and they forget the main point of what I just said. They were Dr. Frankenstein. They created the Frankenstein monster that Dorner became when they ruined it. But that's my opinion on that case. But I don't condone violence. What he did was wrong. But that's what they wanted. And that's what that's what the police want you to do. They want you to act out, because then they can kill you. And then they, on the video, it said burn him out, MF fucker or something. From what I heard, and then the LAPD goes on the news and said, well, we really didn't want to kill him. We tried to actually get him alive, but on the tape you can hear him, yes, just burn him, shoot him, And they're just liars, And, I don't even know if Dorner was in that building. And the reason they burnt the place down was because if they went in there and Dorner was not in there and it was just some old man or something, they would look so stupid. So that's the other thing. Why did they have to burn the cabin down? So the other thing you think of is, did they burn it down because Dorner wasn't even in there? And how can we prove that what they pulled out of there wasn't him if it's all burnt to a crisp? So I thought about that immediately. Until the LAPD or all the police all over the nation address the problem of the corruption in their departments and why they make these people snap, it's just going to continue. So, but to everybody out there, that's what the police want you to do. So don't snap. Don't go to their level. What Dorner should have done was he should have filed a lawsuit 3 years ago when he went through it in the first place. And he should have, if that manifesto was his.
But let me ask you this. You have filed 2 lawsuits. How has that gone?
Well, the first one I had, all Patricia Berry had to do in 92 was just settle the suit as an obvious cover-up. The police tried to cover the crime up by confiscating my lawsuit. In the process, they tried to break my leg. So
did you win?
Well, my attorney kept wanting more money. All she had to do was negotiate the settlement. I kept saying, I don't have $5,000 every time you want $5,000.
Right.
And she wanted $5,000 every step. And I said, I work, I don't make that kind of money, man. That's $5,000 to me, like half, 3 months, 4 months of salary or whatever. You're crazy. So I had a 6-month window to get a damages settlement. So to answer your question, no, it was just never settled. It was just the 6 months ran out, and they basically got away with it. So
when you say that that's what cops want. So when you say where he messed up is he should have filed a lawsuit. Well, that's not working either. I mean, anybody who thinks
at least gets it out there. But what he also should have done was he should have taken that manifesto, if it was his, to the media 3 years ago. He should have done that too. He should have taken that manifesto and taken it to people like you, the LA Times. He should have sent it to every newspaper reporter in the nation. So the way it came out was just all kind of hokey and fishy anyway. We don't even know if that was his actual manifesto. It's just, there's been reports that we don't even know if it was really him or was him. I don't know. But that's what he should have done. But we'll really see TigerLily, that's all you can do, because the police can legally murder us, and it's called justified. But we can't do anything to them, or it's assaulting an officer, or well, they just arrest us. Like, you kill a cop, you're going to do life in prison.
You're going to,
But you're not going to get paid vacation and then be rehired 3 months later, like they are. So yeah, it is a double standard. So, but I'm not advocating killing cops. I'm not advocating killing us. That's the problem. They shouldn't be killing us, and we shouldn't be killing them. And somebody needs to call a truce on this, because this is all crap. We shouldn't be killing them. They shouldn't be killing us. It's just wrong. The only time a police officer should be shooting anybody is if they're a bank robber, or actually see somebody raping somebody in the commission of a crime. But the police are going around shooting people smoking pot, drinking and driving. I mean, they're killing people they shouldn't be killing. This David Silva in Bakersfield, you got a guy at a mental health clinic. He's obviously having some issues. That's why he's there. So the cops should have just pulled up and said, hey, what's going on, buddy? And wake him up. Hey, what are you doing at the health clinic? Oh, I'm having some problems with my wife. You talk to people. You don't just get out of the car and hit him in the head with the tonsils till he's dead. I mean, it's so asinine. And then people have it all on video, and they go around and confiscate the video. And now the sheriff comes out and says, "Oh, the videos have been erased, so we can't find them." It's ridiculous how stupid they think we are. But what the cops are doing all over the nation they're escalating nothing situations into crimes that they commit. And another example is the Kelly Thomas case. Ramos goes up to Kelly Thomas, and once he finds out that Kelly's not involved in any illegal activity, this is what Ramos should have done. He should have said, "Mr. Thomas, this establishment does not want you here. We've been told a lie that you were breaking into cars, but you weren't, so they're trying to get you arrested, and my advice to you, Mr. Thomas, would be to never come back here again and have a nice night." No, what's Ramos do? He gets some gloves on, says, "I'm going to F you up." They proceed to beat Kelly Thomas for about 12 minutes until he's in a coma. Then the paramedics get there, and Ramos and the cops want their little boo-boos attended to while Kelly's in a coma. Paramedic says, "Who's this guy over here?" "Well, we don't know. I don't know. Well, he's in a coma." So they put him in the ambulance. He actually dies in the ambulance. They bring him back to life after 18 minutes. Then he goes to the hospital, and that's where Ron Thomas's father took the now worldwide picture of his son in the hospital bed. And the police went back and they wrote it up as if Kelly Thomas was fighting him and combative and all this stuff, complete lies.
Yeah.
And then they find out there's a bus stop video, and they can't write the report to fit the bus stop video to justify killing him. So now 3 of them have been charged. One was second-degree murder, Ramos. The other 2 with other crimes, Ciccinelli and Wolf, and all 6 have been charged. But cut to the chase, they escalated a nothing situation into now where 3 of them have been charged with crimes. Perfect example. So there you go. Why didn't they just professionally handle their job, and we'd all be happy Kelly'd still be alive? So
I think
we've got serious problems in the law enforcement community in America, and I tried to warn you 33 years ago, and everybody said, "Dan, you're crazy. You must have done something wrong at job to be arrested for. We don't believe you." Exactly. We don't believe you. Oh yeah, we don't believe you. That's the general take. And now that I've told my story,
I bet you there's a lot of people that believe you now, Dan.
Well, I know, because I am telling the truth, and that's why my life's been in danger for 33 years now in this case, because I am the only one who knows the truth about what happened at Diablo Canyon in 1980. And if there's any justice in my case, my testimony puts up to 200 corrupt people in prison or the unemployment line. Mill Baldwin committed at least 3 federal civil rights crimes against me and ruining my marriage. He should have never arrested me the first time. He should have never arrested me the second time. I mean, I'm telling you who the criminals are in the case. They were Leonard Lehane and Nunnery. They went around falsifying police. What they were trying to do were falsify police reports on people, mainly women, although my wife was a target. And then I know this because there was another girl guard that Leonard Lehane tried to do, and I won't get her into it, but she told me this Leonard Lehane, Alan Christopher guy was trying to do the same thing to her. That's why I put it all together. Basically what he was going to do is he was going to say, 20-year-old cute little girl, you either let me have some time with you, or you're going to lose this job. And how he would do that was he would falsify a police report on her, and then a warrant would go out for her arrest, and they would charge her with drug dealing at a nuclear power plant, which is a federal offense. And that's what they tried to do to me. They tried to charge me with drug dealing at a nuclear power plant, and I wasn't even involved in drugs. It was all, like I told you before, all they need is a piece of paper that says police report, and it says, they just put your name, any name. All they need is your address and your name, and they can say, so and so sold me 5 pounds of cocaine on 3:30 Friday afternoon. And they don't even need the drugs. And then they submit that to a DA who reads it and goes, oh, okay, so and so is the drug dealer. Then they take that to a judge, and the judge gets a warrant for you, and you weren't even involved in drugs. Next thing you know, you got a cop at your door, he's arresting you, throwing you in a jail cell, and then you have to prove that the police report's false, like I've had to do for 33 years now. And the whole asinine part of my case is he didn't say like 20 pounds of cocaine or something. He said $25 worth of marijuana. Are you kidding me? You can't arrest somebody on something that stupid. But yet I was, and that's my lawsuit, America. 2 false arrest lawsuits, and that's my lawsuit. Now, if I ever get in front of a jury, I could be awarded as much as $20 million, but I probably never will. So, like you said, the courts are so corrupt. And then even if I was awarded $20 million damages settlement this is what this case cost me. It cost me my career at Diablo, it cost me my career as a security guard, it cost me my wife, it cost me children I'll never know, and 33 years now of talking about it. Right. There you go. That's what it cost me. So if I told my story to a jury, how much do you think that's worth, America, to just ruin a 20-year-old young man over sex? I mean, how what are you going to give me, $20 million? But then, even if I got that, it would go to a corrupt judge on the Supreme Court and the appeals, and Ronald George is an alleged corrupt judge that was on Supreme Court in California, and he would say, oh yeah, this Petry case, I was paid $5 million to make sure that case goes away. Oh, Mr. Petry, your case is denied. It's overturned. Right. And in America, you can't see how corrupt the courts are and the judges are. I can't help you because it is. I know it. I've lived it.
One big incestuous, nasty orgy that is. Now people are understanding that it is how you are saying, because there's so many of us with video cameras out there catching these bastards in the act.
Now people are finally seeing that I was right. But in closing, I want to end like I told you earlier. The police take an oath at the academy. But once some of them get on the street, this is the actual street oath. This is what my 33-year investigation has shown. I state your name. Have completed a 13-week police academy, and I now swear once graduated and released to society to immediately forget my police academy training and use the power given to me by we the people for my own personal and private gain. This includes working with illegal drug dealers to make sure their shipments reach their destination, and every now and then arresting rival illegal drug dealers so the public thinks I actually care about stopping the flow of illegal drugs, which I only do when I cannot make a profit off the drugs. I realize from time to time I will have to encounter a private citizen like me who might know too much about my operating style. Of course, this person will have an untimely accident, or I will have a fellow police officer get rid of them, or I will encounter the private citizen myself, and after I am forced to murder them. Why? Because I feared for my life and thought they were armed. I know I have carte blanche to do whatever I want because the district attorney, another cop in a suit, would justify 99% of everything I do. Although I am a high school graduate, although I am just a high school graduate, I also realize some, most all good, decent cops have quit or been fired, and society gets what they pay for alleged organized crime. This previous paragraph goes for all crime I might be involved in. Respectfully state your name, officer. And that's what I think the street oath is. And whatever oath they take at the police academy is just a propaganda tool of crap.
I have a great deal of admiration that you haven't snapped over these 30 years and that you've just persevered. And I know that your mother, you take care of your mother. She's elderly. She doesn't even like to hear you talk about these stories anymore. So we're doing it at a time when you have a little bit of a reprieve from a break from your mom.
It upsets her too much.
It does upset her. It would be upsetting.
Seeing her young son's life destroyed, and then she knows what I've been through because she's lived it. So if you watch my first and second, now I only have 2 episodes of my show, the pilot episode, and then episode 2 I brought on Raina Duenas and Teresa Smith as my guests. Both of them have lost loved ones to police misconduct, murder. I know they call it misconduct. I love it. Rape, illegal drug dealing, and murder are called misconduct. So that's why I jokingly say that.
So how can my audience find your work, your Cops?
Well, you can. The name of the show is C.O.P. is behind me. Cops with a $sign, and then just hosted by Dan Petry, and the YouTube search should bring it up. The first one's just called the pilot episode. That's number 1. Second episode is hosted by Dan Petry, episode 2. And in episode 2, I think my opening statement is outstanding. It's really heartfelt. It's what I feel is wrong with the police. I feel that right now we could fire 50% of all police officers in this nation, and we would actually be safer. I also said that after 9/11, which a lot of people feel was an inside job, which I do, the first thing they did was they asked for a ton of security. We created a lot of security jobs all over the nation, which was the main goal, was to create a lot of average paying jobs. Every airport now had to have TSA agents. They even talked about having sky marshals on every flight. It just created a bunch of law enforcement jobs. So this is what I said in my opening statement. Basically was, the police want us to live in fear. Why? Because then they feel more of them. The problem is they're the ones that are generating the fear. It's not the criminals. They're generating the fear. We're afraid of them. So then we feel we need more of them because they generate the fear that we, it's a stupid, it's like a vicious cycle. And you probably never heard anybody say that, but that's the truth. They want us to live in fear, and they don't want to solve crime like somebody told me a long time ago, because then they'd be out of a job. So, and I also said that I put cops into 4 main categories: alcoholic, illegally drug addicted, sexual predator, and racist.
Oh, yes.
And then there's some good ones that don't know what the hell to do about all the 4 categories I put them into. And if you don't think they're in those 4 categories, then you're like you said, you're a sheeple, because they are. I've investigated police for 33 years, and the number 1 complaint I have is sex crimes, or police officers trying to use their power to have sex. The other thing is, of course, I was told in my administration of justice classes in the late 70s that 50% of police officers end up alcoholic and 50% end up divorced. So when you're pulled over by a police officer, you're probably being pulled over by a divorced alcoholic. So they're not in the greatest mood anyway. I'm not against divorced people being cops, but an alcoholic shouldn't be a cop. And there are alcoholics who are cops. And I know that because I've been to bars that are owned by cops, where cops hang out, and that's all you see in there, cops getting drunk. And then what happens at 1, 2 in the morning, they all get in their cars to drive home. So if you don't think police officers drink and drive and are alcoholics, at least some of them, I'm saying all of them, just some of them,
right,
then you're just misguided. Basically, anybody can be a police officer. All you have to do is be a high school graduate. Never commit
you can't be smart. You can. I mean,
I'm just saying it can be anybody. If it's not a, they don't go for there are some smart cops, but I'm trying to say, I wanted to get to this anyway, but you have to be to be a cop, you have to be a high school graduate. You have to go to a 13-week police academy in the 70s, and basically you would be hired as a cop and just run on the street. Now I think you have to drive around at least a year on patrol, maybe 2 years, but then you're still within 21 years old. So basically we have a lot of young guys who are police officers, and that's the other problem. Young guys with guns, and they have the term adrenaline junkie. They're cowboys. They've been called that.
And they get
the other thing too is-
this power
definitely.
that they get. It's like a heroin addiction to them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I can mess your life up. It's they just go on this power hungry
Well, that's what they did to me.
tyrant.
They messed my life up. But the other thing, to be a security guard in the state of California, you have to pass a state guard test, and the state guard test is open book. If you flunk it, the instructor just allows you to go to the back and you go over your answers, so everybody passes it. So why even have
But
a
you're
test?
talking about a security guard, which is not a government position, is it?
No, it's just, I just call it part of the law enforcement community. But cops.
Well, not necessarily, because if you're a security guard and you work for a private company, you can be fired.
But what I'm saying is that's how easy it is to be one. It can be anybody. There's no special training. But
my point is that a security guard isn't nearly as dangerous as a full-fledged oath-taking cop that has all the protections of the union power cartel.
I'm just showing you how easy it is. We'll cut to the chase. We could fire 50 to 75% of all police officers in this nation right now. We would be safer. That would cover the 4 categories I put them in, which is alcoholic, illegally drug addicted, sexual predator, and racist. 25 to 50% then are the good ones. It'd be better to have, less good ones than, 50% bad ones and 50% of ones that don't know what the hell to do about the bad ones, which is basically what we have going on right now. And you see what happened to me. I was a good, honest security guard that stood up to a corrupt government narc named Leonard Lehane, his corrupt sheriff in Hungary, and you see what they did to me. They ruined me. The criminals, but I've coined a couple of phrases. The inmates are running the asylum, and criminally corrupt people will not expose themselves. Once they are exposed, all hell breaks loose. That's what I do. I expose them. And I'm lucky to be alive in America because I've exposed a lot of corruption in the past 33 years. And I'm talking judges, DAs. I mean, I've tried to go into victim witness protection, and the local DA won't put me in victim witness protection. I just told you the case I'm involved in. Why am I not in some sort of victim witness protection? I'm obviously have my life is in danger. I was an eyewitness to a police crime as a security guard, so why am I all alone in this case? So, the DAs are corrupt, the courts are corrupt. My opinion of the thin blue line and the code of silence is the thin blue line is the entire court system protecting each other's butts, CYA, that would include police, bail bondsmen, attorneys, probation officers, judges, prosecutors. They're all part of the thin blue line. The thin blue line is just not the police. The thin blue line is the entire court system, and that's what I have uncovered in my 33 years of investigation.
I'm glad you called it a court system and not a justice system.
Yeah, it's all corrupt. But that's the thin blue line, because if you have a bad police report, it then leads to a bad bail bondsman, and then leads to a bad prosecutor. So it all feeds off each other. So, in other words, a bad cop makes the DA look bad, makes the bail bondsman look bad, blah, blah, blah. So they all need each other. So it's the keg and the wheel, the weakest link makes them all look weak. So the best thing I did was, I just want to get real quick to my second lawsuit. On 2/19/11, I went over to sing in Santa Maria, which is what I do now. I've been a singer. And I pointed to my friend I sing with. I said, "You see over there?" I said, "There's a cop." He goes, "Why is he there?" I said, "Well, this has been going on for 33 years. And I told him why. I said, "They've been stalking me for 33 years. And I told him why. And on that night, I came driving home from Santa Maria, and Sheriff Oliver was sitting down 2 blocks from where I live. And of course, I didn't know he was Sheriff Oliver until he pulled me over and wrote me a ticket.
Right.
But he wrote me a ticket for not stopping at a stop sign 2 blocks from my own. I mean, he pulled me over my own driveway, but he claims, and I saw him, so I did stop, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So
they all know I've been put through this hell, and they know I went on TV like 6 years ago and all this stuff, so they know I'm out there talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this was their arrogant way of saying, "We don't care, Dan. We're just going to pull you over and write you up.
We're going to screw you over any way that we can." Yes.
Again. So what I did was I looked at Sheriff Oliver and I said, "This will be the last ticket you ever write. This will be the last ticket you ever write." And I went down within a week and I filed a $2.5 million lawsuit against the city of Lompoc for the continuing harassment of me, the victim in this case, instead of arresting the real criminals. And I sent it to Joseph Quinone, who works out of L.A. and the city attorney of law. His name is Joseph W. Pannone. Alisher and Wendell in L.A. Get his email, get his phone number, America, and send him a letter and say, settle Dan Petry's lawsuit and get rid of all your dirty cops and leave him alone. I would appreciate that, America, in the world, if you would do that. His name's Joseph Pannone. He's a city attorney from Lompoc. And Sheriff Oliver, I have not seen him now in 2 years. I don't see him even driving around anymore. So I have a feeling he has been fired. I don't know that, but I made a complaint against him with the FBI. I also made a complaint against him with Joyce Dudley, the DA in Lompoc, and I said I've had enough of this crap. I don't want to be stopped anymore. I don't want to be pulled over at 2 in the morning, which is a form of terrorism when I've been put through what I've been put through. And I told her, I said, I do not want to ever see another cop again as long as I live, unless I have to testify in a court of law, put all of them in prison that were involved in my case. And I told her I will add $1 million per ticket to my lawsuit. So if I get a fix-it ticket, I will then go down and add $3 million, be $3.5 million. And if I get another speeding ticket, it's going to be $4.5 million. Because that's what they do. They keep trying to make me, the victim, out like I'm doing something wrong to make it look like I deserve what happened to me. You follow that.
Right.
Instead of going after Leonard Lahane, Sheriff Nungary, and Milt Baldwin, and Sheriff Akeo, and Dale Shoddy, who's now passed away, and Tom Jenkins, all the corrupt police officers who falsely arrested me twice and ruined my life and then tried to cover it all up. No, they keep targeting me, the victim, who stood up for his 18-year-old wife. And I would like to say, I'm not looking for any heroic stuff, but there's 2 women alive right now because of something I did 20 years ago, 33 years ago. My 18-year-old wife, who's now probably 50, and another girl security guard, because when I took Leonard Lahane, Sheriff Nungary, off the street, before they could do what they wanted to do to those 2 women, I did the right thing. And looking back, I would do it again. I just wish it didn't ruin my life. That's all, for doing the right thing. So I basically saved 2 women's lives at 20 years old. And the reward I got for it was I was blacklisted out of the industry. So if you think the police are there to protect you, you're wrong. They're not there to protect you. We're all on our own. I ended up having to protect my own wife myself. I had to answer my own wife's 911 call because the police, like I said, never did. And to this day, they never have.
Right.
So there's my story, America. I stand by it 100%. I thank TigerLily for letting me, once again, tell it. It's all true. My story's been out there over 6 years now. Not one police officer has denied it or sued me. So I'm telling the truth.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much, Dan.